Hey guys, I'm back with another trainer interview, and this week we are talking about the one topic that, believe it or not, across the board, all the trainers actually agree that this is a bad guy. So today we're going to talk about sugar. Shad?
Yes?
Break it down for us. Tell me why sugar is so bad.
Oh God. Well, it's the #1 contributor to obesity. It's also the #1 contributor to belly fat. It's a main contributor to high cholesterol, heart disease. Also, people have a tendency to overeat when they eat too much sugar because it's not filling. And also, it's terrible for your teeth, so it ruins your smile.
I love it, and it's an inflammatory too. I just got to add that. I mean, we could add on back and forth.
There are lots of things. These
for
are just the
days of why sugar is so bad for you. And it's also one of the things that I think is so hard for people to cut out. And we'll get to how you can do that. But for the most part, I think there's one topic that is constantly comes up when we talk about sugar, and it's something that we both see in our clients' food logs frequently, and we kind of, obviously have to change it a little bit, and it always shocks people, and that is fruit. So let's talk about fruit. Tell me what your thoughts are on how much fruit and why it's good or bad.
Well, look, fruit is certainly good for you to a point. I think what the misconception is that you have to remember that, okay, the planet gave you this perfect little carbohydrate, which is a serving of fruit. So like one small apple, a 4th cup of blueberries, a very small banana. But I think a lot of people tend to jump for that because it kind of satiates their appetite. They feel they can feel kind of a high, so they tend to eat it because it seems really simple and easy. But you got to remember, sugar, it doesn't matter whether it's sucrose form or fructose form. An overabundance of it, when it gets in your liver, if you have too much of it, you can develop a fatty liver, which leads to all sorts of diseases. Can lead to insulin deficiency, which leads to autoimmune disorders. And in general, I just think it also contributes to belly fat if you eat too much of it, because again, at the end of the day, it is a sugar. Yeah,
and if your body's not able to burn it, guess what? It's going to store it as fat. And we talked about too, juicing is such a big deal. And juicing can be a great way to get a ton of phytonutrients and get all kinds of great things, but what happens is these juicing companies are kind of leading towards what tastes best. And of course, that's going to be 15 servings of fruit crammed into a little bottle that's this big. And then they trick you by saying there's 2 servings, but that's this big, and if you don't read the nutrition label, next thing you know, you've sucked down 100 grams of sugar. And I think Jamba Juice actually got busted for that a while ago.
I mean, I could say a whole bunch of things about that, but I used to, the point is that, like, when you put something in juice form, it takes away the fiber content, which is one of the best parts about fruit, is that not only does it give you a little bit of a good carbohydrate build, but it also gives you the ability to your body to break it down right away. And when you put it in juice form, generally that's all taken away. And what the focus becomes is the sugar of the fruit. Right. And that's why you want to stay away from fruit juices. Yeah. Also, 100%. Generally a cup of juice is like 4 servings of fruit most times. For any of you that use a juicer out there, if you've ever used it, generally to make a cup of juice, it takes like 4 pieces of fruit or 4 servings of fruit just to make 1 cup of juice, and that's just too much.
Yeah, absolutely, way too much. And my general rule, because I do love juicing, but when I juice, I have a trained palate where I put in 1 apple, sometimes a half of an apple, and a ton of veggies. Yeah, a ton of veggies. So for those of you that are juicing at home, make that effort to use more vegetables and less fruit and 1 serving of fruit. And then if you are buying juice out, make sure that you be aware of what you're putting in your body and find out how much sugar is in that, because that can definitely be a showstopper for fat loss in general. Now, how would you say is the best way to go about eliminating sugar in your nutrition plan?
I say one of the biggest things is getting more in touch with reading food labels. There's a lot of things that disguise themselves as sugar, high fructose corn syrup, brown rice syrup, anything like that. You see it listed in almost everything that's packaged. And so one of the biggest things is trying to eliminate processed foods, or limiting them as much as possible. And the big thing, and I know that we as trainers say over and over again, oh, buy organic and do this and that, and I understand that may not necessarily be the most financially sound thing, but either way, whether you buy organic or whether you don't, like, you need to become in touch with buying fruits and vegetables, and really specifically getting more vegetable content and getting higher fats, higher healthy fats, like avocados, nuts, seeds, flaxseed, things like that, coconut oil, anything like that, because generally your fats are what your body's craving when you feel like you're crashing or when you feel like you're hungry. And if you ate more of it and you trusted your body that it was going to use it the way that it's supposed to, you'd understand that at the end of the day, that's going to take your body a lot further than any sugar is going to.
Exactly. So, and I think a lot of people don't really relate, I need energy, I'm going to go eat some healthy fat. They relate, I need energy, I'm going to go grab some sugar. And that's what your body is triggered to do. Right. So you have to outsmart your body and retrain yourself to go, okay, I need energy, that's what I'm craving when I'm craving sugar, and go towards the healthy fats.
Absolutely.
So that's a great suggestion, and I think it's probably something that most people probably don't think about. And another thing that's really important to know is you talked about reading food labels, and sugar is disguised in every which way it can be out there, because people know sugar is bad for you. But organic cane sugar, yeah, it's organic, it's still sugar.
It's still sugar.
Anything with OSE is usually sugar. Anything like you mentioned, the syrups, they're all sugars. So try and go more towards the natural healthy sugars, such as honey, which has other benefits. Agave is an okay one. I'm actually not really a fan of agave.
I'm not a huge fan of it either, but we got to remember that we want you to understand that we don't expect you to eliminate every single thing, but if you're looking for something, a healthier way to go or a more natural way to go, agave
and pure maple syrup.
Pure maple syrup.
100% pure maple syrup. Those are
or organic
by far.
honey. Those kind of things are probably going to be your best bet.
Yeah.
And just trying in general to eliminate all kinds of table sugar, confectionery sugar, and going to anything like a place like Jamba Juice or some place like that where there are 7 or 8 servings of fruit in one little bowl or one little shake. So those things are the kinds of things you really, really want to train yourself to stay away from.
Yeah, we talked about the juicing, but it's the same thing for the smoothies as well. You can't throw 15 fruits in a blender and blend it all up and think it's going to be good for you. It just doesn't work that way. So how do people indulge? What if you get that sweet craving? We talked about going to fat, but
I don't indulge that much in sugar. I try to stay away from it as much as possible. When I am having people over or I'm going to a dinner party or something like that and someone asks me to bring something, I always try to find something that is going to be low in sugar but is going to still have a really good high taste value. So I tend to, I'll use a little bit of fruit, or I might use a tablespoon of a maple syrup for some kind of fruit dish, and I'll make like a crumble where I use nuts and almonds, things like that in raw form, and I'll grind them up and use them with dates so that it sticks like a crust. Things like that I think tend to be somewhat helpful. I also personally make a chocolate mousse or a chocolate pudding that is made out of avocado, which is delicious, but everyone's scared of it because they assume, oh, avocado in a pudding form, that sounds terrible. But I promise you, it's absolutely delicious, and the sugar content is so incredibly low. And you can, when you start to make things like that, you start to kind of teach yourself the ability to play around a little bit, and it makes it fun. It makes cooking fun, and it's totally simple.
Yeah, and then you're getting benefits. You're getting benefits from the avocado. We've all had the berry crumble. It's already on our blog. I'll get you guys the link to that. You're going to have to get me the link for the avocado mousse. You guys don't know, but Shad's actually a really fantastic cook. So we are going to start digging more of his recipes out and posting them on the blog for you. But just get creative, start thinking about what's going to be more beneficial for you, and stay away from the processed things that have the lowest form of sugar in them. Yeah, definitely. I think that's a pretty good coverage of sugar there. So give these guys their one homework for the week, their one main focus.
One homework for the week. Trying very hard to not eat anything that comes out of a box. Nothing processed. I know that sounds very difficult, but if you really think about it, it's not as hard as you think. You grab a handful of almonds for a quick snack. You eat some all-natural almond butter instead of like the almond butter that has added sugar in it, which so many of them do. Something that's non-stir. And again, like really reaching for your fats and trying to stay away from eating too much fruit. Think about how much fruit you eat in a day, and try to half it, and replace half of what you're eating fruit-wise, and try to replace it with vegetables. Green vegetables, carrots, anything like that that's going to be lower in sugar but can still be a good snack.
All right, you guys heard it from Shad. Make sure that you lower those sugars, and I like that he skipped reading the labels. Just don't even read the labels. Don't eat the processed stuff, because then you don't have to worry about finding sugar on the labels.
Stay away from boxes.
Go for the healthy fats to replace the sugar cravings, and limit your fruit intake to 1 serving a day or half what you're already having. All right, that's it. We're out. Make sure you guys do your homework, and I'll be back next week with another trainer interview.